Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling digital marketing strategy, and I've got a fantastic playbook here by Simon Kingsnorth.
Mm, I like Kings North. He's got some really insightful stuff.
Yeah, and I figured this deep dive will be a great way for us to unpack all the key concepts, decode those buzzwords that get thrown around, and even explore some frameworks for analyzing the whole digital landscape.
Sound good to me.
So we'll be uncovering some surprising connections, like did you know there's a link between landline phones and something called the threat of substitute products?
hmm Interesting. I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, and we'll also be talking about why, believe it or not, understanding the psychology of a quote cash-loving German is crucial for success in e-commerce.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. I'm all ears.
Awesome. Let's dive in. So, digital marketing feels like everyone's talking about it, but I'm not always sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I get that. It
Yeah.
can be a bit of a buzzword sometimes.
Exactly. So, before we go any further, how would you define digital marketing today?
It's interesting how much it's evolved.
Hmm.
We've moved beyond just thinking about websites and social media.
Right. It's definitely not just about posting a few tweets or having a fancy website.
Exactly. It's become so intertwined with every other aspect of marketing that it's no longer really a separate entity.
I see what you mean. Like, you can't really separate it from PR or branding or even your creative campaigns, right?
Exactly. Everything has a digital element now. But at its core, I'd say digital marketing is any effort that uses electronic devices or the internet to reach and engage an audience. It's about
Yeah.
connecting with your audience in a meaningful way, wherever they are.
And that wherever they are, part is constantly changing,
Right,
right?
exactly. It's a moving target, which is part of what makes it so challenging and exciting.
Totally. So, to even begin to wrap our heads around it all, maybe we should take a quick trip down memory lane. Back to like the mid 90s. I mean, think about it. The internet was still a pretty new thing for a lot of people back then.
Oh, absolutely. It was a very different landscape back then.
For sure. Like, were banner ads even a thing back then?
Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, the first banner ad appeared way back in 1993. Can you imagine?
Wow, 1993. That's ancient history in internet time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And back then, websites were mostly like static brochures, but things started changing pretty rapidly.
Well, yeah, I mean, Google didn't even exist until a few years later.
Right. Google launched in 1998,
Hmm?
and then they introduced AdWords in 2000, which completely revolutionized the way businesses could reach their audience online.
Hmm. AdWords. I mean, it's almost hard to imagine the internet without it now.
Right. And it was a major catalyst for Google's growth. It still is actually one of their biggest revenue streams.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, but before Google took over the world, wasn't there another big player? What about MySpace? Weren't they all the rage for a
Oh
while?
yeah, MySpace was huge. They were pioneers in social media. But ultimately, I think their downfall came from neglecting how users interacted with the platform.
Yeah, I remember it getting really cluttered and difficult to use.
Exactly. User experience matters. And MySpace is a prime example of what can happen when you don't prioritize it.
It's a good reminder that even the most popular platform can lose its edge if it doesn't keep the user experience top of mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, so user experience is key.
Okay.
But I'm also struggling a bit with how those traditional marketing principles, the four Ps, how do those fit into this ever evolving digital world? Do they even still apply?
Oh, they absolutely do. But you need to think about them a bit differently in a digital context.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. How do the four Ps translate to the digital realm?
Well, let's start with product. In the digital world, you have a very limited window to grab someone's attention.
Right, like you got to hook them before they scroll away.
Exactly. So communicating your product's value quickly and effectively is crucial.
So those product pages, they need to be like concise and compelling.
Yes, and visually engaging too. You got to capture their interest fast.
So it's like the online version of an elevator pitch, right?
Exactly. Okay, now think about price. The internet has created this crazy level of price transparency.
Oh, yeah. With just a few clicks, consumers can compare prices from like a million different sellers.
Exactly. So businesses can't just hide behind inflated prices anymore. They need to be strategic and find ways to stand out beyond just being the cheapest option.
Hmm. Yeah. So maybe offering bundled packages or highlighting value added services or even using dynamic pricing strategies.
Exactly. You're getting it. Now, what about place? This one takes on a whole new meaning online. The place is really the entire online customer journey.
Okay, so it's not just a physical location. It's about the experience across all your digital channels, right? Like your website, your social media presence, online reviews.
You nailed it. It's all part of that digital landscape where customers interact with your brand.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about promotion? How does that translate to the digital world?
Well, digital promotion opens up a whole world of possibilities for targeted messaging and optimization. You can segment your audience based on demographics, behavior, interests, even their past purchases.
Wow, so you can get incredibly specific with who you're targeting.
Exactly. It allows you to tailor your message and offer a level of personalization that's almost impossible with traditional marketing.
Hmm, that makes sense. But with all this evolution and all these moving parts, how do we even make sense of the competitive landscape? It feels like a digital jungle out there.
It can be overwhelming, for sure, but that's where frameworks like Porter's Five Forces can be really helpful.
Porter's Five Forces. Okay, remind me, what exactly is that?
It's a model that helps you analyze the competitive dynamics within a specific industry, which is crucial in this fast-paced digital world.
Okay, that sounds useful. So what are those five forces shaping this digital battleground?
Well, the first one is the threat of substitute products or services. Think about something like the evolution of communication.
Okay, so we went from landlines to mobile phones to smartphones, each one kind of disrupting the market and threatening the existing players.
Exactly. It's a reminder that competition can come from unexpected places.
That's a little scary, to be honest. Like, it's not just about our direct competitors.
Right. It's about anticipating how technology and consumer behavior might completely change the rules of the game.
Okay, what about the second force?
The second is the threat of new entrants. Digital markets often have pretty low barriers to entry.
Yeah, I mean, anyone with a good idea and an internet connection can potentially disrupt the market. Right?
Exactly. So companies need to be agile and innovative and constantly evolving. Otherwise, they risk getting left behind.
It's like the internet has leveled the playing field in a lot of ways.
Totally. And that brings us to the third force, the bargaining power of buyers. This one's grown even stronger in the digital world.
Right. I mean, with online reviews and price comparison websites, consumers have so much information at their fingertips.
Exactly. And they can share their experiences with others instantly. They have more power than ever before.
So businesses really need to listen to their customers and build strong relationships. It's not just a nice to have anymore, it's essential.
I couldn't agree more. The fourth force is the bargaining power of suppliers.
Okay. So in the digital world, who are we talking about as suppliers?
Well, it could be anyone from software providers to marketing agencies, content creators, even influencers.
I see. So if a supplier offers a specialized service or a unique product, they have more leverage, right?
Exactly. And the fifth force is the rivalry among existing competitors. This is where digital transformation can be a key differentiator. Companies that embrace digital technologies and strategies can gain a real edge over those who don't.
Okay, so we've got these five forces swirling around us, shaping the whole competitive landscape. But how do we actually use this framework to understand where our brand fits in?
That's where a tool like a brand positioning map can be really helpful. It's a visual way to see where your brand stands in relation to competitors.
Okay, so how does that work? Like, what does a brand positioning map actually look like?
Well, imagine a chart with two axes. Each axis represents a key characteristic that matters to your target market. Let's say we're talking about, I don't know, automotive brands.
Okay, so maybe one axis could be practicality and the other could be sportiness.
Exactly. And then you plot out where each brand falls on those axes based on how customers perceive them.
Okay, so you get a visual representation of the competitive landscape, and you can see, like, maybe there's a cluster of brands all vying for the practical and affordable segment, but no one's really owning the sporty and luxurious space.
Exactly. It can help you identify those potential market gaps.
I see. So it's like finding that sweet spot where you can differentiate yourself.
Exactly. And it can guide your strategic decisions. As customer perceptions change, or new competitors emerge, or your own business goals evolve, you can reposition yourself on this map to maintain a competitive advantage.
Okay. That's making a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure all this effort is actually translating into results, right? How do we move beyond those vanity metrics, like likes and followers, and focus on the long-term value we're creating?
You're hitting on a really crucial point. It's not just about acquiring customers, it's about building those relationships and maximizing their value over time. That's where the concept of customer lifetime value, or CLTV, comes in.
Okay, CLTV. I've heard the term, But to be honest, it's always seemed a bit fuzzy to me. What does it actually mean?
Let's imagine you have two customers. One makes a single purchase and never comes back. The other makes smaller, more frequent purchases over several years, refers their friends, and consistently engages with your content. Who's more valuable to your business in the long run?
Okay, I see where you're going with this. The second customer, even though their initial purchase was smaller, is clearly more valuable over time. It's not just about that first transaction.
Exactly. CLTV takes into account all those repeat purchases, customer service interactions, referrals, the overall profitability of that relationship. And the great thing about digital marketing is that we have so much data that can help us understand and leverage CLTV insights.
Okay, so we can use data to track customer behavior, personalize our interactions, and even offer targeted incentives.
Exactly. It allows for a more strategic and targeted approach.
That makes sense. So speaking of targeting, how do we actually go about segmenting our audience effectively? What are some methods we can use to create those laser-focused campaigns you mentioned earlier?
Well, there are a few different approaches you can take, and you can even combine them. Let's start with geographic segmentation. This is simply targeting customers based on their location.
Okay, so if you're a local business, you might focus your efforts on reaching people within a certain radius of your store.
Right. Or if you're an e-commerce company, you might tailor your offerings based on regional preferences or shipping logistics.
That makes sense. What about demographics?
Demographic segmentation uses factors like age, gender, income, education level, occupation, those sorts of things. Think about a company selling, say, luxury watches. They might target their marketing efforts toward individuals with a certain income level and an interest in high-end fashion.
Right, so demographics are especially useful when you have a product or service that appeals to a specific age group or income bracket.
Exactly. But sometimes you need to go a bit deeper to understand how people behave.
Yeah.
That's where behavioral segmentation comes in.
Okay, so behavioral segmentation is about looking at how customers actually interact with our brand.
Exactly. Their website activity, their purchase history, their email engagement, even their social media behavior.
So you can really start to understand what motivates them and what they're looking for.
Exactly. And then you can tailor your marketing accordingly. And finally, there's psychographic segmentation. This one delves into their values, beliefs, lifestyles, and interests.
So it's getting at the why behind their actions, right? Like what are their motivations, their aspirations, their fears?
Exactly. And the real magic happens when you combine all these methods. Let's say you're a fitness apparel company, right? You could target women aged 25, 35, living in urban areas who have an active lifestyle and follow fitness influencers on social media.
So you're creating this really specific, detailed picture of your ideal customer.
Exactly. And by combining those different data points, you can craft really targeted campaigns that resonate with specific groups.
This is making me realize how much data is involved in all this, but how do we keep it all organized? And how do we make sure we're making strategic decisions about where to allocate our resources?
That's a great point. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. That's where a tool like the Boston Consulting Group Matrix can be really helpful. It's a framework that analyzes your company's products or business units and helps you make those strategic decisions about resource allocation.
Okay, I've heard of the BCG matrix, but refresh my memory. How does it work?
Well, imagine a chart with 4 quadrants: stars, cash cows, question marks, and dogs. Each quadrant represents a different type of product or business unit based on its market share and growth potential.
Okay, so how do we know which quadrant a particular product or business unit falls into?
Stars are your high-growth, high-market share products or business units. They require significant investment to maintain that growth. Think of like a new smartphone that's flying off the shelves and capturing a huge part of the market.
Okay, stars are the up-and-comers with huge potential. What about the other categories?
Cash cows are products or business units with high market share but low growth. They generate more cash than they consume, providing a steady stream of revenue to support other investments.
So they're the steady earners, the ones that keep the lights on.
Exactly. Now, question marks, they have low market share but high growth potential. They're kind of a gamble, right? And they can become stars with the right investment, or they can fizzle out.
Ah, so they're the wild cards, the ones with both potential and uncertainty.
Precisely. And lastly, we have the dogs. These have low market share and low growth potential.
Okay, I have a feeling this isn't a category you want to be in.
Not really. They often consume more resources than they generate.
So the BCG matrix helps us categorize our different offerings and decide where to allocate our resources. But how does it relate specifically to digital marketing?
Well, it can inform your digital marketing strategy in several ways. For example, you might invest more heavily in digital campaigns for your stars to maintain their growth.
Right, so different digital strategies for different categories. Makes sense.
Exactly. You might focus on website optimization and content marketing for your cash cows to maximize their profitability. And for your question marks, you might experiment more with different channels to see what works best.
Okay, that's really helpful. So we've talked about B2C marketing. What about B2B? Does the digital approach differ depending on whether we're targeting businesses or consumers?
Yes, absolutely. While the fundamental principles of marketing apply to both, there are some key differences in how you approach B2B versus B2C.
Okay, I'm curious. What are some of the biggest distinctions?
Well, in B2B, relationships and credibility are super important.
Yeah, the decision-making process in a business is usually more complex, right? There are often multiple stakeholders involved.
Right, and the sales cycle is typically longer. Content marketing is huge in B2B.
Yeah, I can see how things like white papers, case studies, and webinars would be really valuable for building trust and showcasing expertise.
Exactly. It's about providing information that educates potential customers. B2C marketing often relies more on appealing to emotions.
Right, because purchasing decisions are often more impulsive in B2C.
Exactly. Think about those catchy jingles, those heartwarming commercials, those visually appealing social media campaigns.
Yeah, B2C is more about grabbing attention, creating an emotional connection, and ultimately driving that conversion, right?
You got it. So while there are definitely some overlaps between B2B and B2C, it's crucial to understand the nuances of each and tailor your approach accordingly.
Okay, that's super helpful. But what happens when you want to take your digital marketing efforts global? I mean, the world is a big place.
Going global adds a whole new layer of complexity. You have to be really mindful of cultural nuances, local preferences, and even technological differences. A one-size-fits-all approach just won't work.
Okay, so what are some of the key factors we need to consider when venturing into new digital territories?
Well, first and foremost, language is crucial. And I'm not just talking about basic translation. You need to consider the cultural context and make sure your message resonates with that specific audience.
So you need someone who understands the nuances of the language and the culture.
Exactly. Another big one is payment methods. Preferences vary widely across different countries. For example, did you know that in Germany, they love their cash?
Really?
Yeah, something like 80% of transactions there are still done in cash.
Wow, that's amazing. Here, it feels like everyone's using credit cards or mobile payments.
Right. So you've got to understand how people in each market prefer to pay and offer those options. And then there's social media. The platforms that are popular in one country might be completely irrelevant in another.
Yeah, like here, everyone's on Facebook and Instagram, but I know in China, it's all about WeChat.
Exactly. So you need to do your research and figure out which platforms are dominant in each region you're targeting.
Okay, so thorough research and local expertise are essential for global success. We can't just assume that our strategies will magically translate across borders.
Got it. It's about understanding your audience, respecting their preferences, and creating an experience that resonates with them on a local level.
This is giving me a lot to think about. But okay, let's say we've got a good understanding of our target audience, we've analyzed the competitive landscape, and we've even considered going global. What's next? How do we actually go about planning a digital marketing campaign?
Well, planning is crucial, and you have a few different approaches you can consider. Vision-based planning starts with a clear picture of where you want to be in the future, and then you work backwards to identify the specific steps needed to get there.
It's like setting that big, hairy, audacious goal first and then figuring out the path to achieve it.
Exactly. Another approach is real-time planning. It's all about agility and adaptability. Because things change so quickly in the digital world, you need to be able to respond to those shifts in real time.
Right. It's not about rigidly sticking to a plan, but about constantly monitoring, analyzing, and adapting.
Precisely. And then there's the phased approach, which breaks down your plan into smaller, more manageable chunks. This can be helpful for larger organizations or complex projects because it keeps everyone aligned and working toward those common goals.
Okay, so like a step-by-step roadmap. But regardless of which approach we take, setting clear goals is crucial, right? How do we make sure we're setting goals that are actually achievable and meaningful?
You're absolutely right. And a good framework for setting goals is to make sure they're smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Ah, yes, the SMART goals framework. It's a classic for a reason.
It really works. For example, instead of saying something vague like increase website traffic, You might set a specific goal like increase website traffic by 20% in the next quarter by focusing on SEO and content marketing.
Right, so it's specific, quantifiable, and tied to a clear time frame.
Exactly. And when you have SMART goals, it's much easier to track your progress, measure your success, and make adjustments along the way.
Okay, this is all making a lot more sense now. But I have to admit, there's one aspect of digital marketing that I still struggle with: user experience. How do we create a website and an overall digital experience that actually delights our users?
User experience, or UX, is so often overlooked, but it's absolutely critical. It's about creating a seamless and enjoyable experience for your audience across all your digital touchpoints. Think about those websites that are easy to navigate, those apps that are intuitive to use, those online experiences that just leave you feeling happy and satisfied. That's the power of good UX.
Okay, so user experience is all about how people feel when they interact with our brand online. But how do we actually make sure we're delivering that positive experience? What are some key things to keep in mind?
One of the most fundamental aspects of UX is navigation. Your website should be easy to navigate, with a clear hierarchy of pages, intuitive menus, and a prominent search bar.
Yeah, because nobody wants to click through endless menus and still not be able to find what they're looking for.
Exactly. It's like getting lost in a digital maze. Content is another big factor. Your website content needs to be high quality, engaging, and relevant to your target audience.
Right. It needs to be well written, informative, but also visually appealing.
You got it. Think about using visuals like images, videos, and infographics to break up the text and make it more engaging. And don't underestimate the importance of design. Your website needs to be visually appealing, but also functional. The colors, the fonts, the layout, all of these elements contribute to the overall user experience.
So it's not just about making it look pretty, it's about making sure the design actually enhances usability and supports the goals of the website.
Exactly. And in today's mobile-first world, mobile optimization is a must. Your website needs to be responsive, meaning it adapts to different screen sizes.
Oh, yes. I've definitely been on those websites that are a nightmare to navigate on a phone.
It's the worst. So make sure your website is mobile-friendly, and don't forget about speed. Your site needs to load quickly. People are impatient these days.
Okay, so speed is a key element of UX.
Yeah.
Got it. What about security? How does that play into the overall experience?
Security is absolutely paramount, especially if you're handling sensitive customer information. Think about using SSL certificates, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and keep your software updated to protect against any vulnerabilities.
Right. Security is essential for building trust with users and protecting their information. Okay, this is all incredibly valuable information. I'm starting to see how all these different pieces fit together to create a truly user-centric digital experience.
It's a lot to keep in mind.
It is, but acquiring customers is just the beginning, right? How do we make sure we're keeping those digital customers happy and coming back for more? How do we manage all those relationships and nurture those connections?
You've hit on another critical aspect of digital marketing success. Acquiring a customer is just the first step. The real goal is to turn those casual buyers into loyal fans of your brand, and that's where CRM comes in.
Okay, CRM. I know it stands for customer relationship management, but can you break it down for me? How does it actually work?
Think of it as a system for managing your interactions with current and potential customers. It's about understanding their needs, anticipating their wants, and building genuine relationships.
Okay, so it's about more than just sending out mass emails or blasting generic ads.
Right. It's about taking a more personalized and targeted approach. And technology plays a big role in this. CRM systems allow you to collect and analyze data about your customers, track their interactions, and segment them into different groups based on their behavior and preferences.
So we're using data to create a more tailored and relevant experience for each customer. But what about customer service? How do we ensure we're providing exceptional service in the digital age?
Digital customer service is a whole different ballgame. With social media, live chat, and instant messaging, customers expect responses faster than ever before.
Oh yeah, people want answers now. And they're not shy about taking their complaints public if they don't get them. So how do we navigate this fast-paced world of digital customer service?
It starts with understanding that the core principles of customer service haven't changed, but they definitely apply differently in the digital space.
Okay, I'm curious. What are some of those core principles, and how do we adapt them to the digital world?
Let's start with frequency. In digital customer service, frequency is all about how often you're proactively communicating with your customers, not just how quickly you respond to their inquiries.
So it's not about bombarding them with messages, but finding that right balance where you're providing value and staying top of mind without being annoying.
Exactly. Then there's timeliness. In the digital world, speed is everything. If someone tweets a complaint about your brand, you don't want to wait hours to respond.
Right, you've got to be responsive and agile. What about accuracy?
Accuracy is crucial for building trust. Think about those frustrating experiences where you get an email with the wrong name, or you're asked to provide information you've already given.
Ugh, yes, those are the worst. It makes you feel like you're just a number, not a valued customer.
Exactly. And then there's relevance. Every communication you send should be tailored to that specific customer and their needs.
So again, it's about personalization and making sure our communication is meaningful to the individual.
You got it. And finally, let's talk about personalization in customer service.
I'm all ears. I think I'm starting to understand the power of personalization in marketing, but how does it apply to customer service specifically?
Well, it's about leveraging data to understand their past interactions, their preferences, and their individual needs. And then using that information to create a really customized experience. It's like having a personal concierge for each customer.
I like that analogy. So it's about anticipating their needs and guiding them through their journey.
Exactly. And technology can help us do this more effectively than ever before. CRM systems allow you to track interactions, store preferences, and even trigger automated messages.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, but let's talk channels. I mean, we've got email, live chat, social media, even things like co-browsing. How do we choose the right channels for our business?
Choosing the right channels depends on your target audience and your business model. Email is still a staple for most businesses.
Yeah, email's not going away anytime soon.
Right. But you've got to make sure your emails are personalized, relevant, and add value.
Okay, so no more generic email blasts. What about live chat?
Live chat can be great for providing real-time support, especially for e-commerce sites where customers might need help with the checkout process. It's like having a virtual salesperson available 24/7.
That makes sense. And then, of course, there's social media.
Social media has become an essential channel for customer service. Customers are using platforms like Twitter and Facebook to ask questions and air their grievances.
So we can't just ignore it. It's an opportunity to engage with our customers and build relationships.
Exactly. And then there's co-browsing, which allows customer service agents to actually see and interact with the customer's screen in real time. It can be super helpful for troubleshooting technical issues.
Wow, so it's like having tech support right there with you.
Exactly. And by integrating these different channels and ensuring a consistent experience across all of them, you can create a seamless and satisfying customer journey.
This is incredibly helpful. I'm starting to see how digital customer service is so much more than just answering emails and responding to tweets.
It really is. It's about creating a holistic experience that makes customers feel valued and appreciated.
I like that, a holistic experience. So now that we've covered the basics of digital customer service, maybe we can shift gears and talk about something that's been on my mind: analytics. I mean, we're drowning in data these days.
You're telling me. It's everywhere.
Right. But how do we actually make sense of it all? It feels like trying to find a needle in a digital haystack.
I know what you mean. Data is only valuable if you know how to use it. The key is to focus on the data that matters most to your business and your goals.
Okay, that makes sense. But this whole big data thing still feels a little intimidating to me. Can you break it down for me? What are we talking about when we say big data?
Big data really just refers to the massive amounts of data that are constantly being generated from all sorts of sources: website traffic, social media interactions, customer transactions, sensor data. It's an overwhelming amount of information.
So it's not just about the volume of data, it's also about all the different sources and the speed at which it's being generated. It's like a fire hose of information.
Exactly. And the challenge is figuring out how to capture, store, process, and analyze all this data in a way that allows us to actually extract meaningful insight.
Right. It's not about collecting data just for the sake of it. It's about finding those nuggets of wisdom that can help us make better decisions.
Precisely. And that's where analytics tools come in.
Okay, so can you give me some examples of those analytics tools? Like, how do we actually use them in digital marketing?
Sure. Web analytics tools like Google Analytics are essential for understanding website traffic, user behavior, and conversion rates. They can tell you where your visitors are coming from, what pages they're viewing, how long they're staying on your site, what actions they're taking. It's a goldmine of information.
Wow, it's like a window into how people are actually using our website. What about Wow, it's like a window into how people are actually using our website. What about social media? Are there tools that can help us analyze our performance on those platforms?
Oh, absolutely. Social media analytics tools let you track things like audience growth, engagement rates, sentiment, even the reach of your content. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, that's super helpful for understanding what's resonating with our audience and figuring out how to adjust our strategy. What about SEO? Are there tools for that too?
You bet. SEO analytics tools can help you monitor things like keyword rankings, analyze your backlink profile, and track your overall SEO performance. They can even give you insights into what your competitors are doing, which can be really valuable.
So it's like a competitive intelligence tool as well.
Exactly. You can see what's working for them and try to adapt those strategies for your own website.
I like it. What about user experience? Are there analytics tools that can help us measure and improve that?
Yeah, there are UX analytics tools that focus specifically on how people are interacting with your website. You can track things like mouse movements, scroll depth, clickstream data, all sorts of stuff that gives you insight into how people are navigating your site and where they might be encountering usability issues.
So it's like being able to see your website through the eyes of your users.
Exactly. You can identify those pain points and make changes to improve the overall experience.
Okay, so we've got tools for web analytics, social media analytics, SEO analytics, even UX analytics. It seems like a lot to manage.
It can be,
Hmm.
but that's where tag management tools come in handy. They allow you to streamline and manage all those different tracking codes and tags you might be using.
Okay, so tag management tools help us keep everything organized and make sure we're collecting the right data. But once we have all this data, how do we actually make sense of it? I'm imagining spreadsheets filled with numbers and charts that make my head spin.
I know what you mean. That's why data visualization and reporting are so important. There are tools and techniques that can help you present that data in a clear, concise, and engaging way. Think dashboards, reports, infographics.
So it's about turning those raw numbers into a story that people can understand and act upon.
Exactly. And it's important to tailor those reports to your audience. A marketing team might be interested in website traffic and conversion rates, while a sales team might care more about lead generation and sales funnel performance. Know your audience.
Right, so it's about telling the right story to the right people. But how do we make sure we're being objective with our data? It's easy to cherry pick the information that supports our preconceived notions, right?
You're absolutely right. Transparency is crucial. Clearly explain your methodology, your assumptions, any limitations of your data, and don't try to manipulate the data to tell a story that isn't there.
So it's about being honest with ourselves and letting the data speak for itself.
Exactly. And remember, analytics is an ongoing process. You need to be constantly monitoring your data, looking for trends, and adjusting your strategy based on what you're learning.
So it's not a one-time thing. It's about embracing a data-driven culture where we're always learning and evolving.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, since we're talking about data-driven cultures, let's talk about the foundation of our online presence, the website.
Okay, the website. It's like the heart of our digital ecosystem, right?
Absolutely. It's where we showcase our brand, our products, our content. It's where we want to convert visitors into customers.
Right. So what are some key things to keep in mind when building or optimizing a website?
Well, first and foremost, you need to understand your target audience. Who are they? What are their needs? What are their goals when they visit your site?
Right, we've got to put ourselves in their shoes and make sure the site is easy to use, intuitive, and tailored to their specific needs.
You got it.
Oh,
And your brand identity is important too. Your website should be a reflection of your brand, your values, your personality, a unique selling proposition.
so it's not just about looking pretty, it's about making sure it feels authentic to our brand and resonates with our target audience.
Exactly. And of course, mobile optimization is crucial. We can't forget about that. Most people are browsing the web on their phones these days, so your website needs to adapt to those smaller screens.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced those websites that are a nightmare to use on a phone.
We all have. It's not a good look. Make sure your site is responsive, easy to navigate, and loads quickly on mobile devices.
Okay, so mobile optimization is a must-have. What about content? How does our overall content strategy apply to the website specifically?
Well, your website content should be high quality, engaging, and relevant to your target audience.
Okay, so same rules apply, provide value, engage our audience, drive conversions. But what about structure? How do we organize our content effectively?
Navigation is key. Your site needs to be easy to navigate. People should be able to find what they're looking for quickly and easily.
Right, no more digital mazes.
Exactly. A clear hierarchy of pages, intuitive menus, prominent search bar, all of that is important.
Got it. And of course, we need to make sure the site loads quickly.
Absolutely. Site speed is crucial for user experience. Optimize those images, use caching plugins, and choose a reliable hosting provider.
Okay, speed is a priority. What about security? How does that factor in?
Security is paramount, especially if you're handling sensitive customer information. SSL certificates, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, keeping your software updated. All of these things are crucial for protecting your site and your users' data.
Right, because security breaches can erode trust and damage your reputation.
Exactly. And don't forget about using data to improve your website's user experience.
Right, analytics can help us see how people are actually using the site and identify areas for improvement.
Precisely. You can track user behavior, see where people are dropping off, identify those pain points, and make data-driven decisions to enhance the overall experience.
This is making me realize that a website is so much more than just an online brochure. It's really a dynamic, evolving platform that requires constant attention and optimization.
It's a great way to put it. It's a living, breathing entity that needs to be nurtured and cared for.
Okay, so we've talked about websites, but in today's multi-channel world, customers are interacting with our brand across so many different touch points, social media, email, even offline channels. How do we create a unified view of the customer?
That's the million-dollar question. Creating a single customer view is essential, but it can be a real challenge. It's about consolidating all the data you have about your customers from all those different sources into one comprehensive profile.
Okay, single customer view. It sounds like a pretty ambitious undertaking. What are the benefits of having this unified view?
Well, for starters, it allows you to personalize your interactions across all channels.
Okay, so we can tailor our marketing messages, our customer service interactions, even our website content based on each individual's needs and preferences.
Exactly. Imagine being able to greet a customer by name when they visit your website, recommend products based on their past purchases, or send them a personalized birthday message. That's the power of a single customer view.
So it's about creating that wow experience that makes customers feel truly valued and understood.
Exactly. And a single customer view can help you improve your segmentation strategy, provide more proactive customer service, even identify cross-selling and upselling opportunities.
So it's not just about personalization, it's about being more efficient, more strategic, and ultimately more profitable.
You got it. It helps you get a much clearer picture of your customers, which allows you to make better decisions across the board.
Okay, this has been an incredible deep dive into digital marketing, but before we wrap up, maybe we can recap some of the key takeaways.
I think that's a great idea. It'll help us connect all the dots.
So where do we even begin? We've covered so much: the evolution of digital marketing, the importance of personalization, user experience, analytics. It's mind-boggling.
It is. But if I had to pick one overarching theme, it would be the importance of integration. Digital marketing can't exist in a silo. It needs to be woven into the fabric of the entire business.
So it's not just about having a digital marketing team, it's about creating a digital culture.
Exactly.
What?
It's a mindset shift. Every department, every employee needs to understand the role digital plays in their work.
And it requires a willingness to embrace new technologies and approaches, right?
Absolutely. And a commitment to continuous learning and improvement. We have to keep up with the pace of change.
Okay, so integration is key. What else? What are some other important takeaways?
Understanding your customer is crucial. They have more power than ever before, and they have high expectations.
Right, we can't just talk at them anymore. We need to listen to them, engage with them, and build authentic relationships.
Exactly. And that brings us back to personalization, which is no longer just a nice to have, it's essential.
Right, customers expect brands to know them and understand their preferences.
And they want to see that reflected in every interaction they have with us. And let's not forget about data. Data is everywhere, but it's only valuable if you know how to use it. We need to use analytics tools to measure our success, identify areas for improvement, and make data-driven decisions.
So data is power, but it's also a responsibility. We need to use it ethically, transparently, and always with the customer's best interests in mind.
I couldn't agree more. And finally, we can't forget about the importance of continuous learning. The digital landscape is constantly changing, so we need to stay ahead of the curve.
It's like we're all students in the School of Digital Marketing, and the curriculum is constantly being updated. So be curious, be creative, and never stop learning.
Well said.
This has been an incredible journey, but before we resurface, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
Ooh, I like it. A little something to ponder as they navigate their own digital journeys.
Okay, here it is. In a world where digital transformation is no longer an option but a necessity, How can you use these digital marketing concepts to create a more engaging, more personalized, and ultimately more successful experience for your audience?
It's a great question. And the answer is not about blindly adopting the latest technologies or following every trend. It's about understanding the core principles of marketing, understanding your customers, and adapting to the ever-changing digital world.
So it's about thinking critically, being creative, and never losing sight of that human connection.
Exactly. The digital world is full of possibilities.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Until next time.
You know, one thing I see businesses struggling with is bridging that gap between understanding digital marketing and actually getting the resources to implement it.
Oh, I hear that. Getting budget approval for a digital marketing strategy can be like pulling teeth sometimes.
It's a common challenge.
Yeah.
But the key is to approach it strategically. Understand what those decision makers care about.
Okay, so put yourself in their shoes. What are their concerns?
Exactly. Are they focused on ROI, brand awareness,
Oh,
market share? Figure out what their priorities are and tailor your presentation accordingly.
so speak their language. Show them how it benefits the business.
Right. And get specific. Instead of just saying, this will increase brand awareness, quantify it. Say something like, this campaign is projected to reach 50,000 potential customers and generate a 10% increase in website traffic.
Ah, so hard numbers, data-driven projections. That makes sense.
It's much more compelling than vague promises. And don't be afraid to address potential risks.
Right, because decision makers are always going to be worried about what could go wrong.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Anticipate those concerns and address them head on. What are the potential downsides? What could go wrong? And how would you mitigate those risks?
So it's about being realistic, acknowledging the challenges, and having a plan to deal with them.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to clarify the role of different digital channels.
Because sometimes it feels like a competition between SEO, paid search, social media, content marketing, all these different channels fighting for attention.
Right. But they all work together. Make sure you showcase how these channels can work synergistically to achieve those overall marketing objectives.
So it's not about picking one channel over another, it's about using them strategically and in a way that complements each other.
Exactly. And don't forget to emphasize the importance of your website.
Right, the website is kind of like the central hub of your digital presence.
Exactly. It's where all your digital efforts come together. And it needs to be designed and optimized to provide a seamless and engaging experience that drives those conversions.
Okay, so make sure the website is top-notch. Got it. What about the budget itself? Any tips for presenting that effectively?
Be transparent. Be detailed. Break it down by channel, by activity, by time frame. Explain your assumptions, your rationale, and most importantly, show the expected ROI for each investment.
So basically, make it crystal clear how we're going to use those resources and what kind of return we expect to see.
Exactly. The more clarity you provide, the more confident they'll be in your ability to manage that budget effectively. And remember, passion is contagious.
Ooh, I like that.
Believe in your strategy, be enthusiastic about your vision, and communicate that passion to your decision makers. It's not just about the numbers, it's about telling a compelling story.
So it's about the big picture, the vision, the excitement of what we can achieve together.
Exactly. Combine those strategic insights with genuine enthusiasm, and you'll increase your chances of securing the budget you need to make it all happen.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much ground. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners? What's the one thing you want them to remember as they embark on their own digital marketing journeys?
Remember this. Digital marketing is not about mastering every single tactic or chasing every shiny new trend. It's about embracing those core marketing principles, understanding your customer, and adapting to this ever-changing digital world.
So be curious, be creative, and never stop learning.
Well said.
This has been an incredible deep dive into digital marketing strategy. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Until next time.